The Colorado Rockies just may be, and I got to stick to my guns here because I was saying it on the podcast all week. The Rockies are the worst team in Major League Baseball. We'll break it all down on today's episode of your Locked On Rockies postcast as the Rockies lose to the Chicago White Sox 11-3 on this Saturday. They lost on Friday as well. The White Sox statistically, record-wise, are the worst team in Major League Baseball. But I think the Rockies have just claimed that title from them with their recent performance, and most importantly, their performance that we saw on the baseball diamond on Saturday afternoon and Friday evening. Let's get into it on today's Locked On Rockies postcast.
You are Locked On Rockies postcast, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is your Locked On Rockies postcast. I'm your host, Aniello Piro. Hope everybody is doing A-OK out there after the Colorado Rockies lose to the Chicago White Sox by a final score of 11-3 on this Saturday afternoon. The Rockies fall to 27-55. That is good for fifth place in the National League West. And the White Sox improve to 24-61 on the season, respectively. And I don't really even know what to say. I really don't even know what to say because I thought that this series against the White Sox represented an opportunity for the Rockies to get back on track, try to regain some footing, some momentum, and, just try to play that 500 ball, which we talk about on this podcast on a consistent basis. And now they've lost 2 games in a row to the Houston Astros. They lost that series in embarrassing fashion in both games, both of them being non-competitive. And the Rockies followed it up with 2 games against the worst team record-wise in Major League Baseball that are also virtually non-competitive. They lost on Friday 5-3, and they lose today 11-3. 6 runs in the last 2 games for the Rockies, just not good enough as this season just continues to get uglier and uglier as things progress. So it's an interesting time to be a Rocky fan. It's an interesting time to do this Locked On Rockies postcast because, it just feels like each and every one of these games is a little bit of rinse and repeat at this point where, either the lineup isn't able to do their job or their rotation isn't able to do their job or the bullpen blows a lead, whatever it might be. I mean, just a complete lack of consistency with this Rockies team. And, I think we saw that manifest itself here once again, in today's ball game as they lose 11-3. And we'll break it all down. We'll spend a majority of the time talking about Mr. Cal Quantrill and his start as well here on the Locked On Rockies postcast. Let me just pull this up for you real quick, just so we can put it into perspective how bad this Rockies team. I mean, June has been an awful month. This June 29th, we need to turn the page to July, or rather this Rockies team does, because they have just been absolutely awful. I think only 6 wins for the Rockies in the month of July, or the month of June, excuse me. And we're talking about a Rockies team that is now on a 5-game losing streak. And they've also only won 2 of their last 10 games that they've played. So it has been an absolute slog for them. Again, we mentioned it. They lose 11-3 today. They lost 5-3 on Friday. Then the 2 games against the Houston Astros, which I mentioned were non-competitive, 7-1 loss, 5-2 loss. And then the final game of that homestand from last weekend, they lose 2-1 on Sunday. So it has been anything but smooth sailing for the Rockies in the month of June, but in particular, this recent stretch. I mean, we harped on it. The Rockies went 3-7 on their season-long 10-game homestand. And, what else I think is frustrating about it is, this was, I don't want to say a soft spot of the schedule because there's really no such thing as a soft spot in the schedule for this Rockies team. But, this was an opportunity. You had a couple of tough series against some competitive teams in the Astros and the Dodgers, right? But you had a 10-game homestand followed by a 5-game road trip where you actually had a couple of days off, if I remember correctly. I don't think the Rockies played on Monday of this week, and they didn't play on Thursday of this week. So they had a game on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, of course. But it's not like they're playing, 10-plus days in a row, in this instance here. And so they had the opportunity to kind of collect themselves and try to refine themselves, and just unable to do that as this slide continues for this Rockies club as they're looking for anything really to try to hold on to in a positive setting. So I don't know what the rest of the season is going to hold for them, but if they're unable to be competitive against the Chicago White Sox, and like I said, I wasn't looking for the Rockies to outright sweep the White Sox in this series. I was looking for a series victory. I honestly, for as bad as the Rockies have been, I didn't expect the Rockies to come out here and just absolutely lay an egg when, in the first two games of the series, it's a team that's been almost as lifeless, as the Rockies just in the American League and the White Sox. So, like I said, I mean, this just feels like rock bottom for this team right now. The offense has just been all over the place, and there's just a lack of consistency across the board. I mean, looking at it today, your top five hitters, no one has a base hit for the Rockies today in the top five of the lineup. Blackman, no hits. Doyle, no hits. He struck out as well. Tovar had one hit, excuse me. Ryan McMahon, no hits. Brandon Rogers had 2 hits, so maybe boosting his trade value a little bit. Montero in his one plate appearance didn't have a hit. Toglia didn't have a hit. Nolan Jones had an RBI as well in a base hit. I believe that was a home run for him in this game. Jacob Stalling, Sam Hilliard, Jake Cave, Hunter Goodman. I mean, the Rockies today mustered up 4 hits total in this ball game. 4 hits. And the Rockies yesterday had 3 hits. So we're talking about a team, they've scored 6 runs in their last 2 games, which isn't very good to begin with, but they've only mustered up 7 hits in their previous 2 games. And it's not like the White Sox pitchers, like I was talking about it in one of the postcast episodes this week, like Spencer Arrighetti, the starting pitcher for the Houston Astros earlier, he entered into that start with an ERA well over 6. And because he pitched lights out against the Rockies, his ERA ended up dropping a full percentage point. And so the Rockies are just making these guys, who have not had good seasons, looking like they're, competent starting pitchers out there. I mean, looking for the Rockies on Friday, it was Drew Thorpe on the mound for the White Sox. He goes 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. I mean, that's good numbers for someone in Thorpe who is, for the body of work has not been that good this season. And today for the White Sox, the starting pitcher Cannon, 5 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 runs, all of them earned, and 1 walk to pair with 3 strikeouts. But again, like this is a team in the White Sox that has been as bad, if not worse, than the Rockies this season. And they're making these teams, now look competitive, and it is just so disappointing for this team because you're running out of places to turn. You're running out of questions to try to answer, and you just almost have to embrace the fact that maybe you are the worst team in Major League Baseball. And if you're not the worst, you're certainly bottom 3. I mean, it's the White Sox, it's the Rockies, and it's the Miami Marlins. Those are the 3 worst teams in Major League Baseball this season. So, just a sad last week, really just a sad month for the Rockies here in June, which was, we've talked about on the show, which is it's disappointing considering they had a winning month in the month of May. And look, I don't think May was going to yield any legitimate optimism about, this team could make the playoffs, this team could do this team could do that. No, I mean, but at least gave you some comfort is maybe the right word. I don't even know if that's the, something to fall back. Hey, we had a winning month, right? We won some games, we lost some games, but we didn't lose them all. I think the Rockies have 6 wins in the month of June. So it's hard to feel comfortable or content with anything that they've done on the diamond in the last 3 or 4 weeks because the results have just been that bad. And I talked about it on the Locked On Rockies podcast when I was filling in for Paul Holden this week. I believe the Rockies in this article that I was reading, outside of that, what was it, a 6 or 7 game win streak in the middle of the season, they have not won more than 2 games in a row at any other point this season. I mean, if that doesn't spell out how bad it is, I don't know what does. So, just a disappointing game and a disappointing month for the Rockies here as June gets ready to come to a merciful close, hopefully sooner rather than later, because the Rockies, they need the All-Star break. They need the trade deadline. They need some sort of reset period because, what did I title yesterday's Locked On Rockies podcast? I think Battle of the Cellar Dwellers. The White Sox looked like anything but a cellar dweller with how they played in this series, or rather how the Rockies have played, I should add, in this series, because the White Sox are still no good. But, when you put them up against a team like the Rockies that's playing, at the level in which they are now, any team can look like they've got some sort of hope or continuity. So it is what it is. Rockies lose today 11-3. And away we go. But let's hit a quick break. When we come back, we'll dive into the specifics of the game. We'll take a look at how the White Sox scored their runs. We'll take a look at how the Rockies scored their runs and continue along here on the program on your Locked On Rockies postcast. Stick with us back in just a few minutes. All right, real quick, guys, let me tell you about our friends over at Booking.com because with summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities with hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball rival's city. So look at it this way. If you're going to go to LA, if you're going to go to Arizona, if you're going to go to San Diego, if you go to booking.com, they're going to have a special, they're going to make sure that you're taken care of with all the best locations, all the best accommodations to stay near those respective ballparks in those cities. So be sure to check out our friends over at booking.com. So here's an example of it as well. A New York sports fan is heading to Boston to catch a baseball game on Boston's turf who wants their team to win, but is also excited to have a lobster roll and falls in love with their favorite waterfront hotel. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel plans this Major League Baseball season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or on the Booking.com app. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. All right, let me tell you about our friends over at FanDuel real quick, guys. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I lost some money earlier today on my FanDuel betting account. Italy in the Euro Cup let me down, but I did end up using one of those boost tokens because I was doing these reads, and I was like, you know what? I haven't really fired off many bets since, the NBA Finals and all that kind of stuff had ended. And it's incredible, folks. If you fire up that FanDuel Sportsbook app, you're going to be greeted with a number of different bonuses and boosts and just different ways to try to have some fun and get some skin in the game. And our friends over at FanDuel do a great job of that. So be sure to check them out, FanDuel.com/lockedon. And, if you want to fade the Rockies the rest of the way, I always like to say that you don't always have to bet on your team to win. Like, think about it this way. If the Rockies are going to be as bad as they've been in recent memory, why not bet against them? So that way, if the Rockies lose, you win your bet. If the Rockies win, your emotions are still intact. So be sure to check out our friends over at FanDuel, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get your money down with them. And we got plenty of baseball games left, folks. So make sure to check out all of their bonuses and boosts, which they have all summer long for all customers. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Rockies postcast. I am your host, Aniello Piro. You can follow me on social media at Media by AP. Appreciate you guys rocking with us here on this Saturday, June the 29th. And if this is your first time tuning into a Locked On Rockies postcast, it's not so different than what it sounds like. Postcast, post-game. Long story short, I'm going to be here on the Locked On Denver Sports YouTube channel just about after each and every Colorado Rockies game the rest of the way this season. So if you want some more Rockies talk, if you want to rant and vent about your team, make sure to check me out in the comment section on YouTube and make sure to subscribe to that Locked On Denver Sports YouTube channel as we continue to have some fun here with the Rockies as the season progresses, and also getting ready for some exciting stuff on that channel for the Broncos, the Buffs, the Nuggets, and all that good stuff as well as we move forward. But okay, let's take a look at the game flow here. We talked about just how impactful of a loss this was for the Rockies, but just nothing really going on for them today. 4 hits, they score 3 runs. But beyond that, I mean, just not a whole lot. Actually, let's start with the starting pitching here for a moment, because Cal Quantrill, his record is now 6-6 on the season. And by Cal Quantrill standards this season, he had a pretty rough outing. 5 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 5 runs, all of them earned 8 strikeouts, which is pretty good. And gave up a handful of home runs here today, which is just not going to be a recipe for success. But the reason I want to start with Quantrill is because if you listen to yesterday's episode of the Locked On Rockies podcast, I talked about how, in addition to Elias Diaz, I think Quantrill is the one guy that the Rockies should look to move at the MLB trade deadline, just because he entered into this start with a 3.50 ERA. Let's see where he's at now, real quick. 3.78. So it balloons up a little bit. But I even saw Patrick Saunders on Twitter even kind of threw it out there of like, what do you think the Rockies should do? Should they dangle him out there at the trade deadline and try to get some prospects and assets back for him? Or should they try to sign him to a long-term extension or, just an extension in general? And I saw my guy, Jake Shapiro from 104.3 The Fan. He ended up quote tweeting it. And he says, look at how the Daniel Bard contract has worked out, and you should know your answer from there. And I completely agree with Jake. Like, look, I respect the fact that Quantrill is turning in a good season for Rocky standards and just Major League Baseball standards in general. I love the fact that he's a gamer and likes the challenge, game in and game out, start in and start out of pitching at Coors Field. But at the end of the day, I think it was yesterday's show that I really did the rant. So make sure to go check this out if you want to get some more in-depth detail on this. This may be the ceiling for Cal Quantrill and his Major League Baseball career. The fact that he's doing it in Colorado at elevation and on a consistent basis, I think is almost even more reason to look and dangle him out there at the trade deadline, because we know that the Rockies, odds are that Cal Quantrill is not going to be able to sustain this for another year or two, just from what history has told us. And when I look at that and when I see that as the case, dangle him out there on the trade deadline and try to build for another day. I've always said this on the shows of the Rockies are going to be at their best when Ezequiel Tovar and Adiel Amador and Zach Veen and Romo and all these young prospects, are in their mid to late 20s. Cal Quantrill's career will likely be long and over with by the time that the Rockies are hopefully competitive again with those core young players, continuing to develop themselves through the minor leagues and at the major league levels. So, with Cal Quantrill's outing today, the White Sox did a good job of attacking him. I was listening to the postgame on TV as well, and it seems like there was a decent amount of humidity out there in Chicago, which may have had some impact on how his movement of his pitches was. The split finger is typically a pretty reliable pitch for him. It was anything but that today. And, overall, just a disappointing outing for Quantrill, who you felt like if the Rockies were going to win any game in this series, it would probably be today because of the outing you were expecting to get from a guy like Cal Quantrill. And he was fine, but just not that lights out version of himself that we've come to know and love over the last, couple of months this season. So that's it for Cal Quantrill. And the Rockies today, all of their runs coming on, via the long ball. Brendan Rodgers, his 5th home run of the season to left field. That came in the top of the 2nd inning. The Rockies actually found themselves with a 1-0 lead at that point. Naturally, that would not hold. And then at the top of the 5th inning, the Rockies were up for a majority of this game, folks, because Nolan Jones hit his 3rd home run of the season on a fly ball to right field. Brendan Rodgers also came around to score on that one. So those are the 3 Rockies home runs, or in the 3 runs, 2 home runs to generate 3 runs total in the 2nd and the 5th. And then it was just all downhill from there for the Rockies as they were unable to maintain any sort of lead, unable to maintain any sort of real momentum and, just stack anything together. Like I said, they only had 3 base hits today, which is just not going to win you many baseball games on a consistent basis. And again, I think it's disappointing being that they're going up against the White Sox team that has the worst record in Major League Baseball. And the Rockies waltz into Chicago, a place where, they haven't won many baseball games this season. And, they make the White Sox look like they're a competitive team. So we shall see. But in the bottom of the 5th inning, Lenny Sosa hit a home run to center field for the White Sox with a runner on base. So that made it 3-2. Rockies were still up at that point. And then Luis Robert Jr. also hit a home run to center field then in the bottom of the 6th inning, and that knotted things up at 3 runs apiece. So, the home run, the ball was flying out there in Chicago today. That's going to happen, but at the end of the day, just not good enough from the Rockies, from the pitching staff and from the offense. I'm just so disappointed in the lack of consistency from their offense, because typically hitting is not the problem with the Rockies. Typically it's the bullpen and the pitching. And both of those, believe me, are front and center issues with this team. But when the offense is borderline lifeless, it makes it hard to, develop any sort of confidence as you continue to play these games. So we shall see what happens. But let's hit our final break. When we come back, we'll put a bow on the show. We'll continue along with the game flow, give you guys some more runs here for the White Sox and some closing thoughts as we get you guys on your way on this Saturday. Stick with us. Back in just a couple of minutes right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast, talking all things Rockies White Sox as they lose today 11-3. All right, folks, let me tell you about our friends over at Game Time because I love going to Major League Baseball games this summer, and there's no better way to get your tickets than with our friends over at Game Time because Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, and with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. And there's a number of different features which I'll take you through right now. Last-minute ticket deals, flash deals, zone deals. It's easy to find and buy Major League Baseball tickets and for every kind of event in your area. It's not just sports, it's comedy, concerts, theater. You can get views from all of your seats in the venue, and their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc., are all things that set our friends over at Game Time apart. But let me take you through some of these features in particular. Let's start with their last minute deals because you can save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater with our friends over at Game Time. They also have these things called flash deals where you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Zone deals where you can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. Also, they're all in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. I love this. There's nothing more frustrating than when a ticket's like, I don't know, $40 or $50, right? And then you go and like, oh, I'm getting a deal, 40, $50, and you get to check out and it's 75 because of all these hidden fees and all that nonsense. You're not going to have to deal with that with our friends over here at Game Time, folks. They make it super easy. Also, their seat views are incredible. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Plus, their lowest ticket price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Not 100%, not 105%, 110% of the difference. That's what kind of service you're going to get from our friends over at Game Time. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms, they do apply, but again, create an account and redeem with code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Rockies postcast. I'm your host, Aniello Piro. Be sure to follow me on social media at Media by AP. And when we left off talking about this game, the White Sox had tied the game up at 3-3 in the bottom of the sixth inning, and they would just continue to pile on the runs as another home run in the bottom of the sixth. This went off the bat of Paul DeJong, his 15th home run of the season to left field. There was a runner on there, so that puts the White Sox up 5-3. And then the avalanche, for lack of a better phrase, gets absolutely piled on here in the eighth inning. Andrew Vaughn, RBI single, that drives a run home. That gets the White Sox up 6-3. Paul DeJong with another RBI in this one, RBI single to left field or to right field, that scores a run to put the White Sox up 7-3. And then Corey Lee with his 8th home run of the season. It was a big one, a 3-run home run that puts the White Sox up 10-3. And then a wild pitch from Riley Pint allows another run to score. And that's how we get to the final score of 11-3 in this ball game. And like I said, it is disappointing. It's unfortunate. And okay, even just reading that, and recapping it makes me sick to my stomach because we're talking about the Chicago White Sox here. I'm so disappointed because maybe I'm the fool. I didn't think the Rockies were this bad. And I really still don't think they're as bad as they've been playing. I just think they're just littered with inconsistency. And that's a product of a young team and whatnot. But the way that I look at it is there is just so much potential being left on the field with this team. And they're getting shot in the dark by, some of their bad pitching. I mean, let's look at it today. Cal Quantrill, 5 1/3. Mears was fine today. Jalen Beeks was not very good. An inning or just a third of an inning pitched. He gives it 3 hits, 4 runs, all of them earned, and a walk. He has been dreadful. And Riley Pint, who they just called up, man, Riley Pint, just absolutely awful for the Rockies today. I mean, he's got an ERA. He doesn't even have an ERA. Yeah, he has an ERA of 27 in 2/3 of an inning pitched today. 2 hits, 2 earned runs, a walk, 1 strikeout, gave up the home run, as we alluded to. I mean, it's never ending. I mean, looking at the ERAs, Quantrill 3.78, Mears 6.08, Beeks 4.66, Pint 27. I mean, it is just a never ending saga with the struggles with this Rockies club in the pitching department. And nice to see Brendan Rodgers have a good day. He's been a little up and down, obviously been riddled with the injury history and whatnot. But if they are going to look to trade Brendan Rodgers, you're obviously going to want him to, up the level of play and production to try to boost some of his trade value here, as a second baseman or as a middle infielder, with the trade deadline rapidly coming up. And it's just like that to me is like the one thing that the Rockies fan can actually get pretty excited about. Is this trade deadline, because hopefully that helps push you forward, as you continue to try to rebuild and retool this team. So we shall see. But again, just a disappointing last few days for the Rockies. They find themselves on a 5-game losing streak. It all started with a 2-1 loss to Washington, then a 5-2 loss to Houston, 7-1 loss to Houston, and now back-to-back losses to the White Sox at 5-3 and 11-3 respectively. The Rockies have scored 6 runs on just 7 hits over the course of their last 2 games. So it is going to be interesting, but that is going to do it for me, folks. Before I get out of here, I want to give you guys an opportunity. Make sure to go check out the Locked On Rockies podcast, the standard show. I had a lot of great guests on last week as I filled in for my guy, Paul Holden, Kevin Henry of Just Baseball, Drew Kreisman of Mile High Sports, and Alex Becker of Mile High Sports. But just really good insight, in particular with that episode with Kevin Henry, because Kevin has been around the team for quite some time. He's always writing about what's going on with the Rockies and whatnot. We had some good discussion about the trade deadline, some enlightening conversation about how the Rockies might try to approach this deadline, with guys like Ryan McMahon, Brendan Rodgers, Cal Quantrill, among others. So I think that's why this is an unfortunate game for them, because Cal Quantrill gets a little roughed up. You want to see him continue to try to, keep moving forward, one foot in front of the other. And he took a little bit of a step back today for the Rockies on the mound. But be sure to go check out those episodes, and away we go. But that is going to do it for me on this Saturday, June the 29th. The Rockies just may be the worst team in Major League Baseball. I know that the record does not say it. They're 27-55 to the White Sox 24-61, but at least in June, I don't know if there's anyone worse than the Rockies right now. And they look lifeless. They look like they just have run out of energy. And, hopefully they could try to salvage something as we move forward throughout this season, because if this is how it's going to be the rest of the way, it is going to be a long, hot, brutal summer. So let's see what the Rockies can do, but they lose today 11-3 to the Chicago White Sox. All right, that's it for me. Make sure to subscribe to the Locked On Denver Sports YouTube channel. You can follow me on social media at Media by AP. And we'll be back at it again on Sunday afternoon, reacting to the series finale between the Chicago White Sox and the Colorado Rockies. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy your weekend, folks, and we'll talk to you guys then.